Hey, 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 it is Friday, September 5th, 2025, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the West Coast. I am Brannon. So this is Success Never Sleeps, where we, as a collective of small business owners, in particular martial arts school owners, we're just trying to figure out this thing called life. We want to have successful businesses that work for us, create our versions of success, and live the life of freedom. And I think we all deserve that if we're willing to do the work, right? You got to do the work. So today's show is going to be all about finding our second, right? That person to replace you, which is going to help provide a lot of that freedom. And we'll get into the advantages as well as the pitfalls of that. But let's start by thanking our sponsors. Of course, who do we have? We have Tusaw, Martial Arts Supplies, Market Muscles, Web Design, My Studio, CRM, Kids Love Life Skills, Character Development, LC Accounting, Bookkeeping, and Kin Creative Digital Media. Right? These are 5 companies that 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 now. I work with all 6 of these companies, and I'm passionate how they've impacted my business. After 25 years at one location, 10 at the other, the sustainability is harder than growth. Right? It's easy to get to the top of the mountain. To stay at the top of the mountain is probably even more challenging. So I negotiate that space, right, to keep our schools. When we have mega schools, 3,700 square feet, about 500 students per location, give or take. And that's hard to do. So I put together a very unique team of services and people that help fulfill my vision. And I'm proud to say that I work with all of these companies, and you should too. If you have questions about it, just DM us and we'll be happy to help you with that. And as you come aboard, say hello, tell us where you're tuning in from. I also have a mixed bag when I do subjects like this because, everybody wants 10 new students. But the thing is, who cares if you get 10 students if you can't keep your 10 students? And keeping those 10 students are things like create the success mindset last week. It's this week about finding your second. All these other elements of creating a business that people don't focus on. They're so fixated on getting new students, getting new students, getting new students that they don't look at the back door is wide open and 10 are going out the back door. And if you find yourself year in and year out at 75 to 100 students, there's something fundamentally flawed in your business model, unless that is your version of success. And if it is, who cares what I have to say, right? But again, I just got off a mastermind with Adam. He was running. So I thought I would just sit in, and listen to what he was talking about. And he really, really stressed that the top 1% in any industry spends a lot of time and money and effort on cultivating the right mindset. Because motivation, it's a dopamine dump. Oh, I'm so motivated, and you're motivated for 2 weeks, and then boom, you fall off the wagon. That happens all the time because motivation is a chemical reaction to a stimulus, whatever that might be. This company is going to get you 30 students in 30 days. You're all excited. You sign up with them. That's an example of a dopamine dump. But really, the difference between motivation and success is that discipline, the constant grind, consistently working at whatever it is you want to achieve. That discipline is boring and mundane and tedious at times. There's no fanfare, right? There's no viral. There's no, likes and posts and comments. None of that. It's the grind. It's the grind. And I live that grind to this day. No matter what different project I'm cultivating or what book I'm writing, what blog, whatever I'm doing, I grind. I like the grind, but a grind feeds my mindset, that mindset of discipline. And it's one of the most overlooked things in the world. That's why only 1% of any industry is generating like 90% of the income. It's in every industry, not just ours. And I think people don't see that, right? That is the holy grail, is you working on your mindset. Yet, in our industry, like many, people spend very, very little money on that. Very little money on that. So that leads me into me wanting to invite you to It's Time Life Freedom. It's a 4-day event. People stay for 1 day, 2 days, but it's really the 4 days that your mindset is going to shift. You are your best investment. And someone said, wow, that's a lot of money. I can't get away for 4 days. More the reason. If you can't leave your business for 4 days, more the reason for you to be at It's Time Life. Close the school, go on sabbatical, come here for 4 days. If you can't close your school for 4 days, right, or walk away from it and have somebody else run it, then I would challenge your business model. I would challenge what you're currently doing today. If you can't walk away for 2 weeks and your business run itself, Next level, 3 months. Next level is it doesn't need you at all. That's really why we should be opening businesses so the businesses can serve us. And when we get into today's subject about your second, that's going to be integral in achieving that. Cool, cool, cool. So, Marco put the link for It's Time Life Freedom. Consider joining us for that. And then, of course, our It's Time group mentoring. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. Our mentoring team, we are not consultants. We're mentors. We do what you do on a daily basis. I don't sit in a glass house and hypothesize. Everybody here in this picture teaches in their school, still gets on that mat. I do it once a week, and we're not an industry that requires an absentee owner. I don't recommend that. If you truly want to be impactful, a level 5 leader, you need a mentor. I have mentors, right? So it's super important. And the level I've achieved of success and wealth is due to those mentors, like Sam On. I work with him financially. What he's done for me, nobody has ever taught me or took me to that level. Thank God that I opened my mind to Sam. Cool. So mentors are really important. You can do an audit with us, a discovery call, sit in on one of our weekly calls. You're welcome to do any of those things, but make no mistake. If you truly want to achieve your level of success, you need to work with somebody. Being left alone to your own devices is not something I recommend to anybody that wants to succeed. Cool. All right. So what is today all about, right? What is it all about? How to find your second. So put in the comments what you think that means. Let's start with defining your second. Go ahead and put it in the comments and you come aboard. I see Bob Poole here from Gold Martial Arts. Love you, Bob. You're one of our biggest, I would say, friends. I don't like the word supporter or fans. Just silly. I just really admire the fact that you show up on a weekly basis and you inspire me to do what I do, sir. I do. I know people watch this after the fact at their convenience, but to schedule time out of your busy week to say, no, I need to sit with Brannon Beliso live and be here. I thank you for that, sir. I really, really do. I really do. So put it in the comments, man. What do you think, Marco? What do you think, Bubba? What is our second? How would you define a second? Let's begin there. It's totally interactive, right? How do you define your second? And if you get a chance, post this, this live feed. Can I post this? I want to see if it cut and paste into what I do. Put it in the comments, please. I want to know for you, what is that for you? If we can post this live into my personal page, that'd be cool too, Marco. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, your second is the person that can replace you, that can do everything you currently do in your business and do it better. That's super important. And I'm going to tell you why right now. Most of us, out of fear and ego, will not train anybody in our business to do it better than ourselves. From the martial arts viewpoint, of course, I'm the master, you're the student. You can't outshine me. My kicks must be faster. My unique techniques must be beyond your thinking. That's one. It's just not even healthy for your business if you're going to find a second. The second big fear that's associated with that is this person you train to do it better than you is going to leave you and open up a half mile away and take all your students. Stop it. Take both of those off the bargaining table right now, because if you do not, you will never go through this exercise really, really well, creating a new habit, creating a new situation, creating a new culture, however you want to define that. Okay. So that was the big thing for me. Once I eliminated that, and for me, let me double back on that just for a second. As I jump around. Long story short, I was speaking on the East Coast, and a gentleman was speaking with me. His name was Tule. And he was really amazed that we generate 75% of our revenue from traditional martial arts, where he was generating 75% of his revenue from after school and day camps. So they flew out here and watched my operation. Then they flew me out there to train their team. And he was running 3 locations at the time, right? He was an affiliate with Top Kick. And we walked into one of the locations at 7:30 in the morning. And he said, I haven't been here for 3 months. And I looked at him and said, that's sacrilegious. We're martial arts instructors. We need to teach in our business. And then he said, well, I understand that, but let me give you a little food for thought. And here's my question to you. If you got sick or hurt and couldn't work a day in your life, how long would it be before you lost your business? And at the time, I was doing 40 hours a week of teaching 90% of the classes. I looked at him and said, well, realistically, probably 6 months to a year. And then I went through the whole scenario of losing our home, my family being homeless. I had a wife, we just had a baby. I went, whoa, what a reality check. What a reality check that was. And then they introduced me to E-Myth by Michael Gerber, which talked about McDonald's predominantly, a systems-driven business where you take ordinary people and get them to perform extraordinarily. So those two things made a lot of sense to me, right? I wanted to secure my family's future, and I wanted a systems-driven business that wasn't dependent upon me. Because a personality-driven business is not sustainable. You can't sell it. It's not attractive to anybody. Case in point. When I went to the bank and I wanted to get a simple line of credit, at that time to do some remodeling in San Francisco, I was proud to tell them, I'm an owner operator. I work 60 hours a week. I teach all the classes. I was so proud of that. I got a $30,000 line of credit. There you go. When we opened our second location, I went back to a bank and I said, well, I run businesses that are not dependent upon me. We're looking for growth. It's systems driven. And I have a highly trained team in place based upon a culture and a purpose. $350,000 line. That alone right there told me I was on the right track. Okay. So I eliminated the fear this guy's going to leave me. I eliminated the fear that nobody could do it better than me because I'm the all grand poobah, right? Like they said in the Flintstones. I took that off the table because what became my purpose? To secure my family's future. I need to know every day I wake up, if God decides this is my last day on earth, right? That my family is going to be taken care of. Gratefully, I can say with all heart and soul that my schools can run without me. So the number one thing I couldn't outsource, and I'm a huge advocate of outsourcing. As soon as there was enough money, I outsourced the bookkeeping. As soon as there was enough income coming in, I outsourced the janitorial. As soon as there's enough income coming in, I got an accountant. As soon as there's enough money coming in, I got a lawyer. As soon as there was enough money coming in, I got a window washer, right? As soon as enough money coming in, I hired someone to do all my ordering and all the rest. So, but it happened incrementally. It didn't happen overnight. But I understand the value of outsourcing. The only thing we could not outsource was the teaching. At the time, I had a bunch of teenagers and I was the, head of the school, teaching like my dad did, right? Teaching all the classes. And so it was a very, very, very scary process, but here's how it began. And please take notes. And I hope, people viewing this watch this one a bunch of times. I just really wanted to drive that home. What stopped me from doing this? Okay. So once I was clear on that, my family's future, I'm willing to let go of my ego. I'm willing to let go of being the grand poobah. I'm willing to let go of all that. He's going to leave me and open up down the street. I was willing to let go of all of that. Okay. Because my priority became securing my family's future. The first thing I did, back then we didn't have ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you how you can leverage that today. I took my yellow legal pad. I have tons of these. And I put it next to where I taught in my instructor station. And I wrote down everything I did on the mat. Everything. From pre-framing the class to warming up to the class, to the way I taught the year one curriculum, year two, year three, year four. I wrote it all down. Okay. I wrote it all down. Hey, Jesse, what's happening, my brother? How's the new place? Are you enjoying it? And so I wrote everything down for Jesse, who just got here catching up. We're talking about our second, and here was the process, right? I took my yellow legal pad and I wrote down everything. How I greet people at the door, how I pre-frame them in the waiting area, right? How I taught the warm-up, how I taught the strike for year one, year two, year three, beginner, all of it, including the trial process, right? All of this was written out. And then I sat down and tried to teach it to somebody. And it was like the teacher in the Charlie Brown cartoon. Wah, 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 wah. They looked at me with glazed, their eyes were glazed. And I'm going, because I had what, 16-year-old kids at the time. I think TJ was 14, right, when I started doing this. He was young. He was young. But again, E-Myth, right systems so ordinary people can perform extraordinarily. Now, make no mistake, TJ's extraordinary in every way. But at 14, how much work experience did he have? Zero, right? So there wasn't work ethic, there wasn't maturity. A lot of that wasn't something I had to work with. So I needed to write systems that would take the ordinary and help them perform extraordinarily. That's why you need to read E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I read it every year. It's like tax returns. It's something you should do. It's super important to understanding the value of systems. Because think, McDonald's, this billion-dollar company, was built on the shoulders of high school kids at that time, right? They didn't have a lot of older people working, super, super powerful. So then once I got the glazed look from everybody as I'm reading off all my notes from the yellow legal pad, I realized there was a huge step missing. I needed to go back and rewrite these systems so I could use them to teach people, right? Teach people. That's why we stress a lot. You got to have systems. You got to have systems. You got to have systems. You hear that all the time. But because most owner operators are executing the systems that are indigenous to them, that are native to them, they never see the sense of urgency to sit down and write out these systems. They figure they're going to teach forever. You're going to teach forever. But stay with me. 40 years old, open the door, take the money, teach the classes. Not bad. 50, 60, 70, 80, open the door, take the money, teach the classes. It's not going to be physically possible. So to plan for your future and have that long-term vision, right? That long-term goal is super important. And of course, if I'm writing all this stuff down, the warm up, all that stuff, I can use it for my instructor's training experience, which is what it eventually morphed into. So I rewrote all these systems to be able to train somebody to do it better than me. That was the huge gap as I looked at my, yellow legal pad and I'm trying to teach this stuff. And then looked at me like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. Zero. So I went back and rewrote them. Then I had to develop a system of training people, right? Okay, we're going to teach a front kick. All right, great. How do we do that? Kick and have them copy you? That's what we learned growing up, right? We would do the front kick, everybody copied us. Visual learning, wonderful. But today's learner needs a lot more than just visual stimulation. There's auditory, there's sequencing, there's disguising the repetition, which, kids get bored if it's repetitive. So all of those became key factors into writing those systems. Cool. So once I wrote the systems to train them, I sat about training this team, right? Here's how we greet people at the door. Here's how we take attendance. Here's how we tie a belt. That became the first 3 months of my instructor's training and to replace me on the mat. Because remember, I get sick or hurt, my family loses everything within a year, right? They lose everything within a year. That wasn't going to happen in my house. Okay, so now I've trained TJ and I've trained Lucas. Those are my two guys. They're about 14 and 15. I think they're like a year apart. Next step. This was a year later now, right? A year later, I was announcing I'm going to stop teaching, right? And we had a big adult program. And some people looked straight in the eye. They said, I am going to leave if you're not teaching me because I don't want to learn from a bunch of kids. I get you, right? You're a 40-year-old man. You don't want to freaking hang out with a 14, 16, 15-year-old instructor. I get that. But I need to be home with my family. My son's 2 years old. I can't sit there and look at him when he's 5 and say, be 2 again. So that was a huge part of my motivation. Secure my family's future and don't be, an absentee dad. So that became huge, huge. So after 1 year, I stopped teaching. literally, almost completely. First month, we lost $10,000 in revenue because people quit. Next 3 months, we lost another $10,000 in revenue. Summer rolled around. Oh, camps are camps. They don't care, who's running that, right? We had a pretty good staff. Things were stable. But here was the good news. In the fourth quarter of September through December of that year, we had our best fourth quarter in business ever. Ever. Because by then, TJ and Lucas had been teaching not next to me, but in front of me for 9 months. But make no mistake, I would stand at the edge of the mat, sometimes with a walkie-talkie and a little earpiece, talking to them through the walkie-talkie, coaching them, because I knew if they fell flat on their face, our attrition would continue to climb, because I knew I was going to lose X amount of people when I stopped teaching. But I had saved up for that. I didn't realize it was going to be that harsh. But again, fourth quarter of the year, best fourth quarter ever in business. And we've never looked back. Never. Never looked back. I taught for the first time in San Francisco in 10 years, a kickboxing class, a couple weeks back. I work 1 day a week teaching in the school. But what that's allowed me to do, which is something every successful business owner will preach, is you need to work on the 20%, not the 80. The 80 is the daily grind, right? The 20%, the vision work, is what I do today. So what am I doing right now? I'm working on new curriculum. I'm recording all the curriculum videos. I work on all the digital media. I work on the website. I work on the storytelling. I work on systems. I rewrite systems. I come up with new systems. We revamped our whole after school and summer day camp program this summer, before the summer started. That's what I do. I'm the visionary. I'm not the guy. Steve Jobs was the visionary. He wasn't the coder. He wasn't those guys. But you need a visionary to be successful in business. Somebody's got to lead the band, right? Somebody's got to be driving the car, taking people in a direction of growth. So here was the big thing. So they're all teaching. I'm not. We have the best fourth quarter ever. And at the time, TJ was just starting out in college now. And he said, well, I'm not sure I want to commit to doing this for my life. So I'll teach for you, but I'm going to go to college and work on my AA. Can't blame him for that, right? So they're all teaching. And then by the grace of God, I must have wined and dined this kid from the time he was 16 or 15 even. I remember taking him to Chris Ruth, right? Steakhouse. We had like a $400 dinner. And sitting in this dinner, I said to him, why are we here, sir? Why are we here? He says, because you want to show me that the potential to earn and do well in the martial arts is there. I said, absolutely. One time he was sitting there getting ready for a sparring class, and I walked by him, and at the time, I don't know what we were making, but I told him, I'm going to make $160,000 this year. And he looked at me with his 14-year-old eyes and said, okay. And that year I did. So I kept planting seeds early and often, like Dave Kovar taught me, right? The problem is I had no fruit to bear. I had no legitimate direction. So it all culminated after TJ got his AA. He decided he was going to work for me full time, right? He wanted to do this with his life. So I looked at him and said, well, I'll never be able to pay you what you need or deserve with one location. So we need to open a second one. And that's when Millbrae was launched a decade ago. Because what I understood at some point, because he was young, right? Eventually he's going to get married, have kids, buy a home. He's going to need to make a certain amount of money. But I didn't quite understand how to put that all together on paper. Okay. So we're sitting in the food court in Tanforan shopping center, and we're having this heart to heart. And TJ's literally on the verge of tears because what was happening, he felt a lot of anxiety. He felt frustrated. He felt, it was hard to talk to me because he still saw me through the lens of his teacher, his martial arts instructor. I was still behaving like his martial arts instructor in business. That was a huge red flag for me. I knew the way we communicated needed to change if he was ever going to be my second, right? But my big aha thing in that conversation with TJ, because I was discussing with him, how do we get his brother Lucas aboard? That was it. because my vision was if TJ's running the show, but he's at one location doing the majority of the teaching, Lucas is at the other location doing the majority of the teaching, then I don't have to teach anymore. And if God takes me tomorrow, my family will be fine. So again, that was my long-term vision. And here I am having this conversation in the food cart. And here's what he said. Write this down. I would not tell my brother Lucas to work for us as his career. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, why, sir? You chose to do this. He says, for one simple reason, I believe in you. That was really good. So again, as a leader, you can pay people any amount of money. It's not a big deal. But if they don't believe in you, that could be the most toxic team member that you have. A paycheck player is not somebody you want to be with. It's not. A paycheck player is not somebody you want on your team through a mortgage crisis, through a pandemic, is not who you want. You with me? So I said, well, sir, okay, tell me more. He said, you do not have a career package. Write it down. Now you can chat GPT it and it'll put it all together for you. But fundamentally, number one, I need job security. That was a big one. 2, a clear path of advancement. All right. Competitive pay. This is where we fail miserably as an industry. We tend to look at our instructors as somebody like a kindergarten teacher or a personal trainer, and we pay them that as a base salary. Then we want them to be a salesman, and we pay them commission for everybody they close and different things like that. I think for us, that's a very poor business model because culturally, that's not who we are. That's not what we do. I also need vacation with pay. I also need medical. Oh, wow. And I need a retirement plan. I had none of those things, people. None. Zero. Nada. And I realized in that moment, TJ really cared. The fact that he was on the verge of tears, I recognized that was a gift. 1, I needed to become a level 5 leader. If I ever was going to inspire or attract anybody wanting to be my second. So I think that's a good inventory you should do on yourself right now, right? When you get the opportunity and it's nice and quiet, sit down and get yourself a yellow legal pad like this. And on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you rank as a leader, right? Because the way you define yourself is part of, I'll get into this in a minute, write it down, the job description and the position agreement for your second. Okay? If I can define who I am in my company currently, and I'm looking to replace me, I need everything to write a job description and a position agreement. Okay? Write that down. So, I'm still working on communication. I feel very frustrated on the days when my wife would say to me, nobody on the team can talk to you, because I felt very helpless. I didn't know what to do with that, right? So I took a leadership communication course. I've taken several with Rudy Mick. If you ever get a chance to work with Rudy Mick, I would encourage it. I really, really would encourage it. And so I began to understand what it took to be a level 5 leader. Active listening, taking their ideas and implementing them. And then that thought was reinforced when I took Disney business courses. Disney would walk into a meeting, whether it was they're working on a movie, they're designing a new ride in the theme park, or they're designing the theme park. And he'd always ask the team when they brought questions to him, what do you think? What do you think? So that became part of my communication skills. And it's that way till this day. Because if you're doing the bulk of the teaching, why am I going to sit there and flex my muscles because I'm the black belt professor, 9th degree, and dictate when you're actively applying, right, the curriculum and it's not working? You're frustrated teaching it. The kids are frustrated learning it. It's not a good day. So I've really devoted a lot of my learning, my personal development to becoming a level 5 leader, and that means being a level 5 communicator. Super. No, super no, super important. Super important. So, after that time in the food court, I sat down and I started to write out what it would be. And this is a wonderful exercise. Write this down too. If you thought of the perfect company you wanted to work for on paper, what would be the benefits? What would be the things you look for? And they're all of the above, right? Competitive pay, room for advancement, a retirement plan, vacation with pay, sick leave, right? And some kind of medical, whether it's a medical siphon, I don't care how you slice or dice it. With TJ and Lucas, we say this is the amount of money you should be spending a month on medical for somebody your age if you bought yourself your own private insurance. So we will supplement that with money. Okay. So it became very simple. And once we got to that point, um, with confidence, his brother Lucas organically came aboard. I don't think we had some big meeting and announced, Lucas, do you want to work for us forever and full time? We just sat down, and let them know. And I think that one of the bigger turning points for me was during the pandemic. We had a thing called the Great Resignation. People were leaving their jobs, and because of the pandemic, everyone was collecting unemployment. It was called the Great Resignation. People were leaving their jobs in droves. And I witnessed some of it too, right? In our own company. People weren't comfortable coming out of their houses, all the different things that, we were doing virtual for a couple of years. So what I did is I gave both Lucas and TJ raises, pretty substantial raises, and I took a cut in pay because I wanted to nurture these guys. And when we came out of this pandemic, I already visualized what it would be like once people had a green light and they could get out and go do things. I wanted the strongest team to run with. And we're almost back. We have a couple of rough months in San Francisco, but we're pretty much back to where we were pre-pandemic, right? Sly of it, but we're getting closer. And so that was a great, great, great milestone in our business. And they both knew that. I remember taking them to a really high-end Korean restaurant. We had, Korean barbecue, and it was freaking Wagyu A5, Korean barbecue. And I gave them both these raises. And they knew I was struggling. And they knew, we were in the pandemic. Fortunately, because I keep great payroll, I report all my cash, the government gave me close to $600,000 in ERC money and stuff. And I didn't take that and saved it for a rainy day. I put it into the team, right? I didn't take anything other than my basic bills through that time. I made sure I shored up this team, and it was the best investments I've ever made. Because your team is the best investment you can make next to yourself. And so then Lucas was locked in. Okay, great. We've had raises, a couple of things like that. My next level with Lucas and TJ will be profit sharing. We're not there. We've had a couple of setbacks in San Francisco. Last year, Millbury had to float a couple thousand to San Francisco on a couple of really lean months. So it's just not logical as a company. But everybody still gets a 4% annual raise, simply cost of living raise. No debate, no discussion. So that still happens for them. And I can gratefully say I have had some impact. They're both married. They both own homes. They both have children, all part of their dreams, their version of success. And to be able to witness and support that is a good thing. All I need to do today is keep pace with that, because the advancements is next level's profit sharing. The advancements will be they're going to take over these two schools, right? So as long as there's a clear path of advancement and you're making steps to achieve that, you have a better percentage of keeping your second. Because one is cultivating that. Two is facilitating it. Two completely different things. And people say all the time, TJ's brilliant, TJ's brilliant, Lucas is brilliant. I knew that when they were little kids doing martial arts, right? They were badass martial artists, and they're even better human beings. So I knew they were the right ones. It was just a matter of convincing them. It's no different than dating. I wined and dined these kids. I kept planting seeds, planting seeds, planting seeds. And it was a huge risk. They could have went left and stayed in college and got BAs, and we could call it a day. And I will forever look at them as one of my most valuable investments and keep doing everything I can to keep them on path with me. You with me? Okay. So let's go to position agreements and job descriptions. Now, I wrote the systems to replace me on the mat. I've replaced me on the mat. Okay. That's done. That is done. I teach 1 day a week, pretty much by choice. I would teach a little more because for me, my version of success at 63 is teaching. I know, kind of weird, right? Because I won't teach at this level at 73. It's not physically possible. I won't teach at this level at 70, 83. So right now at 63, I want to teach. I love teaching. I love being with kids. There's no politics, there's no war, there's nothing. So to be with kids is just super powerful. So I enjoy it. Keeps me young, keeps me positive. So I'm always happy to step up. And I think that is an important part in level 5 leadership. The autonomy that I grant my team, especially upper tier TJ and Lucas, are valuable. TJ was just in Hawaii, right? But it's symbiotic. I was in Japan for a couple of weeks in Vegas and Reno and also I've been gone most of the summer, pretty much. And then TJ coordinated it where he was going to go on vacation after I got back. How thoughtful is that? Right? You got to love him. So I picked up the slack when he was in Hawaii, right? I ran the black belt test. I taught an extra classes. I taught, that one weekend I posted was a blur. Literally, I taught Thursday, Friday, set up a cotton candy machine Saturday morning, went back and did black belt test. That night set up for the following week, right? That Sunday, I sat there and taught a kickboxing class in San Francisco, went back to Millbrae, did 6 hours of curriculum videos for the new cycle, and then he was gone that following week as of Wednesday. And I buckled down. I buckled down and I grind for the team. I'm happy to give them that autonomy because what that shows, and this is way beyond the position agreement, it's way beyond the job description, it's way, 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 way beyond systems that you write, is you having enough vision and heart, I'm going to say heart, to honor their life outside of your school. Okay. And we often don't factor that in. A lot of big corporates don't do that other than, letting you work from home now or the amount of maternity or paternity leave that you get. I thought it was amazing when Jeanette Tech put a nursery, in one of their campuses so parents could put their kids in the nursery and go work and come down and nurse the kids and do all of that. I think that's brilliant support. It truly, truly is. So I think it was last week before TJ went to Hawaii, their buddy was getting engaged. So they were off that weekend because they had some big thing in a park and all that. I backed him up again. If somebody gets sick and they can't drive the van, right? And after school, I did that on Wednesday. Why? Because I work 1 day a week on the whole, right? So if I have to pull a couple extra days here a year, a couple extra days, and it makes TJ's life simpler and easier and more manageable, absolutely. Freaking absolutely. Lucas came to me a couple weeks ago and he said, "Hey, professor, I want to do Ellie's birthday party on this date." I said, "Abso-freaking-lutely. You don't even ask. You're welcome to take the school, do Ellie here 1 year birthday party. I even suggested move the equipment racks and hide them and do this and do that. Cover up the bags like we did 1 year when Braden had a minion party and we made each of the Wave Master bags look like minions, right? I mean, that's the things you can't quantify. And in listening to Tu's post yesterday, Tu is at Harvard, right? Good friend of mine. And he posted that you can replicate people's strategies, but you can't replicate their culture, right? You can't replicate the people. And everybody wants TJ and Lucas. Everyone has said that. I think even Marco has said that at a certain point, right? They all want a TJ and Lucas. Lorenzo has said that. So many people. And I value that so greatly. And I am more than happy. I know at some point TJ is going to want to do his daughter's birthday party. I'm right there. They're going to have more kids. I'm right there to teach when they're on paternity leave. I'm right there. But the balance that we worked, I remember when TJ was on paternity leave, he did a certain amount of work from home so that we could keep his personal revenue up to what it needed to be, right? So I think that's the beautiful thing. That's the beautiful thing. And when we can support that, um, you know, it's 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 unequaled. You can't put that into a job description. You cannot. You cannot put that in a job description. You, as the level 5 leader, you're the visionary of that. You cultivate that. You with me? All right. I know that's a lot to take in, but I really wanted to give you the full story of how we've gotten to where we are today. And again, as long as I keep pace with their cost of living, I keep pace with their, needs as they grow their families, as long as I provide a work environment where they have autonomy and they have say and input, as long as I create an environment where they can grow and advance and generate more revenue, as well as profit sharing and one day owning these businesses or being equal partners, right? However, that all works out. As long as I make a conscious effort to do that and it's not a bunch of lip service, I live the free life I live today, right? It's beautiful. I work one day a week. That's crazy. I never thought that back when I was sitting there. TJ was 14 and I'm teaching 60 hours a week and doing everything in the school, right? So I think the big thing about that, I know this is very overwhelming and it's very daunting. But remember, 1,000-mile journey begins with a single step. So let's walk through that now. Step one, I want you to look around and who do you think is a real second? And if you believe it's the guy with the perfect front kick, I'm going to challenge you on that. I have guys that are great martial artists that will never be great martial arts teachers, right? And I think it's identifying it's two different skill sets. It takes a skill set to being a great martial artist, a completely different skill set to being a great martial arts instructor, a different skill set to being a successful small business owner, and a different skill set to being an entrepreneur. Okay. So once I recognize that, I know I'm an entrepreneur. I need to create businesses that work for me versus me working for them. If I can do that, my time will become my own. Will you pay for it? Heck yeah, you're going to pay for it, but it's worth every penny. I'm at soccer practices like this weekend. My daughter has 2 soccer games. I'll be there. My son has basketball games. I'll be there. When we get off this call today, me and my wife are going to go have some lunch. How cool is that, folks? How cool is that? How blessed am I? I can't express that enough. So then you get your yellow legal pad. Stay with me now, because you can literally do this. You can take a legal pad, or you can even take a video camera. Videotape how you greet people. Videotape how you do their attendance, tie their belt, and pre-frame the class. Videotape your best warm-up. Videotape, your best class teaching beginners, your best class teaching year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Videotape all of that. Throw it into a transcribe, right? And then transcribe it. Then take it and create a designated assistant. My one for that one is called Papa. And I said, Papa, your purpose is to help me cultivate systems, right, that exemplify our culture. Here's my URL, onemartialarts.com. Here's my instructor's training experience. Here's this, and this. Write me systems. Write me systems. Hey, David, what's up, sir? Make sure you go back and watch this one, okay? This is super, super, super good. Have you been here the whole time, David? So let me get back to that. And again, with ChatGPT, I can't tell you. You can literally videotape your warm-up, transcribe it, throw it into ChatGPT, and say, write this into an outline and a system so I can train 16-year-old black belts to teach it. That's how simple it is today. You have no excuse. I had to do everything on a yellow legal pad and then write it into a computer, on and on and on. There's no need for that. I can even ask ChatGPT, analyze this great warm-up I think is fantabulous. Tell me my holes in my game. What fitness exercise do children the age of 6 to 11 absolutely need to be physically fit? And it'll tell you, you're missing jumping jacks. Can we add that in? Okay. You with me? Who's with me? I've even asked ChatGPT, what are the best martial arts warm-ups that make it unique to martial arts that would attract people to wanting to stay at a school? Right down to, check me out, what calisthenics and martial arts are a huge turnoff and can compromise our retention. You know what it told me? Finger push-ups. You with me? See, so I mean, with the advent of ChatGPT, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing, you know, these types of things for your business. And then once you get the warm up done, right? Once you get how to teach your one curriculum, whatever belt testing cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of it, all of it, all of it, you can go about starting to train the person you believe is your second. Now, what are the qualities I look for in a second? Number one, loyalty. It's a lost art. Nobody's loyal to anybody. Loyalty is number one. Number two, they must be teachable, right? And that can go into your job description. That could be in your job description. Number three, super important, reliable and dependable. Trustworthy. Who puts in a job description? Look at Indeed anywhere where it says we're looking for someone that's loyal, trustworthy, reliable, dependable, teachable. Must love working with kids. Must be a great teammate, ready to go the extra mile. Fortune 500 companies are now hiring CEOs based upon emotional intelligence more than what's simply on their resume of what companies they've worked for and what they've achieved. So it's the same thing here. And you weed out a lot of people right away. But as you write this out, it's going to make a huge difference. Huge difference. Our instructors training experience has produced some amazing instructors, right? But stay with me now. I don't mind it once in a while if people are sick, but I don't want to leave a couple 16-year-olds running a class. I simply don't. We had a couple exceptional, because we train people so well, because if TJ was teaching at 16, Lucas was teaching at 16, we've created systems where 16-year-olds can perform extraordinarily. Again, E-Myth. McDonald's. Take ordinary people and write systems for them to perform extraordinarily. Right? So we do. But I try to balance that. Lucas or TJ is always within arm's reach. They're in the school. They're on the mat, so it just never happens that way. You cannot charge $279 a month for twice a week, and you have a 17-year-old on the floor teaching all the time. You just can't. I'm an adult. I'm a parent. It's a hard one to wrap my head around, right? And that's just the way it is. So we're going to wrap this one up. I want you to post your comments, right? Post your comments. What are your big takeaways today? What are your big takeaways? Hey, David, and now that you're part of Kids Love Life Skills, next Friday is our first group meeting. Write that down, everybody, 9 a.m. on Friday. And so beyond, being a client and having all the great support materials and the badges and all the different things, I am going to be coaching you guys on your businesses. So I'm really proud to start offering that, the first one for Kids Love Life Skills for our subscriber and everyone that's part and of Kids Love Life Skills. We're going to have our first meeting next week. Zoom. It's going to be so cool, David. So put that on the calendar. It's September 10th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What are your big takeaways today? What did you get out of this? Bob, Jesse, David, who just got with us. What did you get out of today? You put your comments in there and I'm going to give you my thoughts. The biggest thing was my mindset shift that was fear-based thinking. This guy's going to leave me, take half my students, and open up down the street, right? If I train him to do it better than me. Number two, my ego, right? I'm the 9th degree black belt. You're only 3rd degree. How dare you teach better than me? How dare you take the spotlight away from me? I don't care. Like I said, I haven't taught in San Francisco in a decade, and that makes me money. That is true entrepreneurship. I don't teach in that school. I do nothing in that school other than the vision work, the Facebook ads, the social media posts, writing the systems, curriculum design, off site. They do all of the heavy lifting and they generate me revenue. That is called passive income. That's true entrepreneurship, right? My ego doesn't care. That's fine. My ego can sit there and be poor all by itself. I'm going to be humble, open minded, teachable all the way to the bank. You with me? Because that's entrepreneurship, people. That's entrepreneurship. I can't express that enough. Cool? So I want you to think about, systems, David. Systems. And again, I'm famous in my own mind, David. When I wrote that first system back then, I didn't have ChatGPT. I wrote on my yellow legal pad. I don't know why I like these. I just do. They're all over my house. Makes my wife nuts. And I took this yellow pad. I sat down with, my 14, 15, and 16-year-olds and go, okay, first thing we learn how to do is greet people at the door. And I did it my way, right? And they looked at me like I was freaking nuts. And I go, what's going on? I'd never do it like that. That's corny. Da 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 da. Then I say, oh, okay, do it my way. I'm the black belt. You're a lowly student. And that didn't go over very well either, right? So that's when, again, studying Walt Disney. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, then, if my way seems corny, what do you think? But what I knew was the system was just very raw. So I went back and rewrote the system so the lowest common denominator could understand it. The teenage kid who doesn't have much work experience or teaching experience. So I rewrote the system. And I've taken systems and revised them hundreds of times. So, because it's a constant evolution with systems. You don't just write one system, David. You monitor the system. I write a system to do the trial process. I look at my KPIs. Wow, this month we only converted 3 trials out of 10 in youth karate. Go back and watch people teach trials. Go back and train the team better on the trial process. Go back and rewrite the trials, right? I got to have some type of measurement, and it's the KPIs. That's the only indicator I have. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. And then going from taking all that information, writing it into systems for people to teach better than me. And then find a consistent, as we talked about in the beginning of this broadcast, motivation is quick dopamine dump. I'm so motivated to eat healthy and lose 10 pounds. The long-term discipline of eating healthy every day, month after month, year after year, that's very, very, very hard. So it's the discipline of the consistent effort, like the Japanese Kaizen, constant improvement. Constant improvement. And I think the big thing you do is you set yourself up for failure when the goal is way, 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 way too big. I need to revamp my curriculum and write systems for everyone to teach. No, I need to start with how to open the front door. Let's just write that system. Then let's write the system for greeting people. Then let's write the system for taking attendance. Then let's write the system for the warm up. Then, go through that. Go through that. And each piece you train people on will help cultivate your instructor's training experience, right? We'll be able to, and we're going to do that at It's Time. I'm going to tell all of you, come to It's Time Live Freedom. Come for 1 day, come for 2 days, stay for 4. 4 is where it's going to change your life. Everyone that's attended for, I look at Noah. Someone mentioned that on the Kin Mastermind call today. Noah went from 60 to 180 students in a year. And he's been to It's Time Live several times. He works in our group mentoring, right? And he runs ads with Kin. That's a huge jump from 60 to 180 in 1 year. That's really, really good. And he's, went from 10K a month to 26 a month, right? So you need to come. And that's one of the big things is I nurture is that mindset. If you're going to make this move where you are going to find your second, then you need to put it down on paper, what that looks like with the position agreement, the job description that we discussed. And it's more cultural. I'd rather you be a great cultural fit, have the right mindset. I can teach you how to teach a front kick or this form or anything else. I can't teach you to care. So that's why, again, Fortune 500 companies are hiring based upon emotional intelligence. I've had a lot of really good instructors that were toxic as people and ended up, ended up hurting our culture. Okay. So I want you to be very mindful of that. Very mindful. Just remembering you can pivot and adapt. That's a big thing, you know? Um, I'm not scared of failure. Failure is part of success. And I've gone down many pathways and went, oops, turn around. I have no problem with that. Sometimes failure is the shortest path to success. The big thing is knowing, not when, because that's so silly. It's just having the habit of pivoting and adapting when you just really know it doesn't work. This don't work. So to pivot and adapt is a really good thing, Jesse. And I do it all the time. It makes my people crazy. Well, you said, and last week you taught me this. I understand that, but I found a better way. And I'm the first to say that way is outmoded. We're going to run this way, right? But I don't, fall for every one trick pony. I don't sit there and buy everybody's brand new program coming across the pipeline. I'm not joining every organization in the world. I have a very clear vision of what success looks like for me, for my family, for my team, for our community. So I seek out the right information. The right information. That's the big difference. There's tons of information, but what is the right? Right? What is the right? So last but not least, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. As I shared, once I replaced myself on the mat, I think I cried. I got down on my knees and prayed. And I thank God that if you choose to take me right now, I know with all truth, these schools can run without me. TJ and Lucas can teach, the team can teach. We've outsourced my accountant, my lawyer, my bookkeeper, cleaning, window, all of it. It's all outsourced, right? And the schools can run without me. So my family is secure. They will get income even if I'm not here. And once I found that peace of mind, now it's just about refining it, keeping up with the needs of my team, TJ and Lucas, primarily because they're the two top tier guys, keeping up, being aware, supporting their dreams outside of the school, keeping up with their pay, all of the rest. And I get criticism for that. People say your payroll is huge. It's 33%. But a great restaurant, their payroll is 30% of their revenue gross. It's nothing new. Again, we pride ourselves as an industry, and I don't get it when the owner says, I'm at a 50% net. I net 50%. I would bet you're teaching a lot of freaking classes yourself. I'm at about a 35% net any given year. But again, I teach 1 day a week. I haven't taught in San Francisco for a decade until recently. You feel me? But it fulfills my version of success. I like being with my family. I like being with my kids. That clock is ticking. One day they're going to be both out of the house and gone. So it's real important to me to have that freedom. Have that freedom. Cool. Any other thing? David, how about you, Bob? Did you want to add anything to that, sir? I'm going to encourage you, David, to go back and listen to this once Marco posts this at YouTube. Listen to this one because I know a lot of people will give me the stance. Well, I'm always going to teach. I'm going to retire. I'm going to close the school after I teach, and this is the way it is. Yeah, but if you got sick or hurt right now, sir, and you couldn't teach another day in your life, right? How long would it be before your business was gone, 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 gone? And I don't want to say that to you in a fear-based way. I really don't. I want to just say in a very practical, reasonable, logical way. You should be looking for your second. You should be training somebody to do what you do 10 times better. And then you do everything you can to create a company they want to work for and honor their life outside. Cool? All right. So let's start thanking people right now. Let's start with our sponsors. Who do we have? Who do we have? Who do we have? We have Tucson, Market Muscles, My Studio, all those wonderful, wonderful people. I love them. I work with them. I spend a lot of time with them. And it's powerful. It's powerful. I want to make sure that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with a team. Make no mistake, you need a team. You need a team, right? You need a team. I was talking to Adam today, and I just want to finish with that in relationship to our sponsors. Adam's growth in 3 years is phenomenal, and he'll be out here for It's Time Life Freedom. And I just said that. I think what's most impressive about your growth, your core value of caring for people, caring for our clients, helping them grow their schools, getting new students through the door is beyond what I've ever witnessed in any digital media company. And I will continue to work with Kin, which I do as a consultant, a mentor. I write copy, I do graphics. They're good kids, they're good people. And everybody you see below me are people that I honor, admire, and I'm very, very grateful to work with. It's Time Life Freedom. It's coming up. Everybody here, you can get $200 off right now. When you sign up for the 4 days, enter the discount code FREEDOM, and you're good to go. Do that right now. 4 days. You can come for 1 or 2 days, but really invest in yourself. Come for 4 days, November 8th through 11th. Be one of 20 school owners that spend 4 days, and you could be like Noah Seidel, right? From 10K to 26 in a matter of a year. That's really good growth. And it's through the learning at It's Time Life Freedom that you get that. Long term, right? After the 4 days, think about my mentoring group. Our mentoring group, we are mentors. We are like you. We don't hypothesize. We're in the pit. We are working. We're testing, all our theories. We're applying them. Practical application is how you go from learning to knowing. So we are mentors. Schedule a discovery call with any of us, Marco, Monique, Jason, and myself, and we'll be happy to share with you what we can offer you. Cool? All right. Thank you for today. Again, this is one area of business people don't pay a lot of attention to. It's one you really, really should. No, really should. And I hope it's inspired you to do that after watching today's episode of Success Never Sleeps. Where to find me? All the major platforms. Success Never Sleeps is on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you can find this podcast. Of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel and you can watch 10 years of learning that's sitting there. I've had people grow their schools just watching Success Never Sleeps. Cool? Facebook, subscribe to YouTube. Did I say all that? For everything else, go to BrannonBeliso.com. I am Brannon Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps. Until we talk again, please, 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 you go out there, live your best life.